We're always going to be here. We're not going to disappear.
They just don't want these people hanging around all the time, and they just ruin everything.
If we had more access to rehab, if I can get into a rehab as fast as possible.
People want to go to get a bed, and depending who it is, oh no, we're full.
I don't agree with people living illegally, so that's my opinion.
And it's sad. I know they need help, but I don't think this is the way to do it.
You can't just be like, here's some methadone. Like, it's like, you know, you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach him to fish, he eats for a lifetime.
Don't do drugs.
For Rebel News here in Cobourg, Ontario, I'm Tamara Ugolini, back once again to do a report and an update on the encampment situation on the east end of town. Those paying attention to this situation note that there is a monopoly on shelter and homeless outreach services by the upper tier municipality called Northumberland County and their partnership with the charity operating a low barrier shelter called Transition House, which will consolidate and expand its questionable efforts at a newly acquired location at 310 Division Street, which was purchased as a sole-sourced contract to the charity in a hasty 30-day done deal last December to the tune of $2.3 million. Radical harm reduction and safe supply advocacy groups like Mom Stop the Harms and Greenwood Coalition have infiltrated the area, which many argue leads to the perpetuation of harm, with the local health unit putting out an alert just weeks ago after a string of overdoses in the area. This is in stark contrast to the Globe and Mail article last week that found opioid-related deaths in the province of Alberta declined again in May, a 55% drop from the same time last year, with their recovery and treatment-oriented approach. As British Columbia walks back their decriminalization pilot project and the oxymoronic reality of safe supply ideologies continue to create chaos on the streets, cameraman Lincoln J and I are here once again to delve into this. With 2 elementary schools and a high school in the few kilometer radius of the encampment and the low barrier shelter dead set in a residential neighborhood with another elementary school a mere block away, it's been a year since the growing encampment took up strategic residence on the east end of town at the former Brookside Youth Detention Centre, currently owned by Infrastructure Ontario. The property is said to be tentatively sold and is now completely fenced, with taxpayer-funded 24/7 security hired by the province and operated through a third party with dumpsters, hand-washing stations, and outhouses provided. What do people think in the town of Cobourg?
I think things in the town have gotten slightly better since they've set up there, but it also kind of doesn't really seem right that they're able to occupy, all this. I think the residents down there are suffering a lot.
I've been homeless years ago, so I understand. But honestly, this is not a good thing for here. We're going to lose business. And it's not just that they need help. I know that. But we're going to see needles on the ground. We're going to see,
Just remove it right to the ground.
Oh, yeah?
They did that in other cities. They said in the garbage trucks, dump everything and the garbage trucks move.
Yeah.
Because it's no good.
They're opening up 310 Division Street as a low barrier shelter, and Transition House is going to move their services into this new, bigger building. What do you think that effect that's going to have on the downtown?
Ruin it. And the neighbors will hate it. Because they just don't want these people hanging around all the time, and they just ruin everything, like they do.
Like who would want, anybody would want something like that in their backyard or their proximate backyard? Like nobody wants that, but it doesn't change anything, so.
I've been living here 6 years, and I used to be able to walk at midnight and never have to worry. Now, as soon as it gets dark, I can't walk this way.
These are people. They're somebody's brother. They're somebody's child. And so it's a balance between the
balance between helping them and just making it worse is what it is. How do you help them? There's no helping these people.
Well, even when you're in there, it makes me wonder, how is this compassion?
Yeah.
You see the squalor and the garbage,
I don't think anybody really that's the kind of language that they use, so they can keep that kind of thing entrenched and in place. Like the sort of people who perpetuate it, they don't care about being genuinely compassionate. They care about keeping it in place, and I think making life miserable for everybody else.
What would your message be to that upper tier municipality that really isn't elected to represent the people of Cobourg?
To listen to what the mayor wanted, and that was to have 24-hour people to keep an eye on things, to have these area cleaned up. If there were, I wouldn't want my 5-year-old granddaughter to pick up a needle. She wouldn't know,
Outlawed. Outlawed. Just pass a bylaw. No encampments at all. None.
It's pretty clear that townspeople are fed up and they want to see something change. So we're going to head over to the encampment and see what they have to say. I just have one question. There was a mom and dad here, the de facto mayor of the encampment. They were really helpful last time we did a report. Do you know if they're here? I think that's their tent in there.
I'm not sure at this time if they're here or not.
Okay. So you're not keeping tally of who's kind of coming and going or anything like that?
It's not from what we've been told. Like I said, you just have to talk to our management. They'd have a lot more answers than we do.
Yeah.
We're just here to protect the property. So.
Okay. Security's here to protect the property, not to liaison between who's coming and going. How long have you been living here in the encampment?
Since April, I think, but my boyfriend's been here since it started. We've actually been living in a tent for 3 years. We usually just make our own campsite.
Yeah.
And we were on the board for the tiny home coalition. That didn't work out because they were looking at this property, but it wasn't selling because it's supposed to be full of asbestos. And this building that hasn't sold in years and years and years, suddenly poof, got sold.
So this property has been sold,
Yeah.
as far as you know?
Yeah.
Have you received any word on what happens then to the encampment?
No, but behind the transition house, there's this retirement building that's being turned into a shelter.
Yep.
Which will be really good because you get your own room. So you can be in a room with your spouse, in your own washroom, and it's more like your stuff's safe. Then you can focus on working. It's really hard to get a job when you don't know if you're going to have a shower that night, or you're going to sleep all night that night, or if you're going to come home to your tent on fire, which has happened, or your stuff all stolen.
So 310 Division, do you have any idea when that's opening, and you say you will go there when it does open?
Yeah, I'd go there because that's the reason I didn't like transition houses. I've been with my boyfriend for 18 years, and all of a sudden not being able to sleep beside them, this whole thing's really affected our relationship really badly.
Yeah.
It's been the worst it's ever been.
And so transition house isn't suitable just because of that?
Not just because of that. They're really unprofessional. And they play favorites. There was a lot of young girl workers flirting with the guys. I don't even know if I should say this, but this is getting really personal. But when we were on the tiny board committee, or the tiny home committee, the girl that runs it, she's this church going, she's 40-year-old married woman, and she started having sex with my boyfriend of 18 years because our relationship was suffering, and we talked to her about that. And I actually got her to admit that she started the whole thing, and she would persuade him pretty much every time, buy him whatever he wanted. He was allowed to pick who got a tiny home. You know what I mean?
Was that Jenny Frankie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they kick you out, so you'll just come home one day and they'll be like, oh, you can't live here anymore. You can't go in and pack your own stuff. So what they do is they just leave your stuff for people to go through, and then they'll kick you out for 24 hours.
What about the advocates who come in? They say oh, we're going to get you help, and the county comes in, they offer you help and assistance. What does that look like?
Yeah, to give us help, to give us probably peanut butter sandwiches. That's about it. I'm just saying, if any help, they don't help anything. They don't do nothing.
Do you think 310 Division is going to help alleviate?
I don't know what 310 Division is. What's that?
That shelter that Transition House is taking over.
Those people, the workers there they pick and choose who they want live there. Honestly, they pick and choose, and you look at them the wrong way, they'll kick you out. You're 1 minute late, they kick you out.
Is there a substance use issue in your situation?
Yes.
Yeah. And what do you think the solution would be to get out of that? Is it this harm reduction, safe supply initiative, or is it, would you be willing to go to treatment or recovery?
Safe supply helps you get clean at all, but it helps you stay safe.
I'd like to go to rehab. Once I go to rehab, I can just no longer be homeless. If we had more access to rehab, if I can get into a rehab as fast as possible, I'd be living my best life. But because I have to wait so long, and my worker is Morgan, who doesn't do her job.
Who's Morgan?
Morgan, I think her last name's Emerson. She never signed me up for rehab. I think I asked at the beginning of summer. It's now August.
What do you need right now? Like, what would help someone in your situation right now to try to get yourself out of this cycle?
Somewhere stable, to stay where my stuff's safe.
The county says that they come in and they offer help and assistance and services to the encampment almost every single day. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's bullshit.
They don't come here?
They come here, but not every day, and they don't really offer too many services or any services. I don't know. My tent's way back in the corner, so I don't know if they just don't see us, but there's people that'll drive us to the food bank.
Would treatment be a reasonable thing to be part of that process?
Yeah, well, being a shelter/treatment center. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You got to give people a hobby and skills. You can't just be here's some methadone. It's you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach him to fish, he eats for a lifetime.
I've seen it many times where people go to get a bed, and depending who it is, oh no, we're full. And then we purposely okay, go. This person will go in there. Can I get a room? They get a room.
And a message to the kids: don't do drugs. And that's all I want to say.
Can you give us a tour of? Do you have some time to give us a tour, or maybe of your tent, or just? Yeah. What's happening here at the encampment?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the local residents say, it just looks like a junkyard in here.
Yeah, and I'm really OCD. So when I bring my garbage, I'll pick up this stuff as I go.
So there's some garbages here.
It's so hard.
What's this board here?
So people write down things that they need. Just rules and stuff. Yeah. Sometimes people write inappropriate things that don't need to be there about other people, but
mostly there's some rules and things people might need.
Yeah, so here's I guess a couple services that they've.
Oh yeah, the drug overdose awareness day is tomorrow, but they've crossed it out and put drug poisoning.
Yeah, they call it drug poisoning now.
Okay. Do you think that's accurate? Drug poisoning versus overdose? Aren't all drugs poisonous?
Yeah, what we call alcohol poisoning.
So it's leaning on that.
Yeah.
This is actually a decent setup.
That's my fertility log.
Are you trying? Or?
No, I just like the way it looks. So,
what do you think's going to happen come the winter? Is this appropriate, and will it keep you warm?
We stayed in here through the winter already.
Oh, you were here.
We have heaters as well, propane heaters. I don't know. There's just some people that aren't really sensitive to the fact that this is all the things that we have. And when you leave it out for people to just steal from you, that's why I don't want to go to the transition house, because they'll think of any reason to kick me out. The security guard at the warming room. Now, he used to message me on Facebook 8 years ago, and he, I have a pretty dirty sense of humor, but he was so bad I had to block him. And so he ended up being a security guard, and one day he asked me if I wanted a drink, and I was yeah, thinking he meant water, but then I realized he meant alcohol, and I don't drink, so I was no. But he was drinking, and then he was smoking meth with some of the people, and then he got caught.
On the job?
Yes, and then he got caught in the bathroom. I paid one of the girls to show her boobs to him in the bathroom. I don't know what they expect. They think if they keep closing bank lobbies and bathrooms and this and that we're just going to disappear. We're always going to be here. We're not going to disappear. Right now, you have us all put in one area, so at least you're not having us all downtown and stuff, but we're not going to disappear. We all grew up here. I don't think there's anybody in this encampment that came from Peterborough, came from Toronto, like people think.
Okay.
People aren't oh, you know what? I feel like being homeless in Cobourg.
Just as we were wrapping things up, we ran into Cobourg Town Councillor Adam Bureau, who owns the buy and sell behind me here. Let's check out what he had to say about all of the concerns, both from Cobourg residents and those living in the encampment.
I believe that everybody should have a home, regardless. Do I think that... I don't agree with people living illegally. So that's my opinion.
Do you think that 310 division is going to be a reasonable solution to alleviate the strain of the encampment?
No. I think it will help, but if there's more people than shelter beds, then that's not going to fix a lot of things.
Do you have a time frame on when 310 is going to open?
No, that's up to the county. Again, nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
So.
But the fallout comes onto Cobourg, so where is that cohesiveness between the county and the town of Cobourg?
That's what we're working on.
Yeah.
Yep.
When can residents expect a resolution?
That's between still negotiations. I don't know if there is going to be one or there could be one soon.
Okay.
So, yeah.
A lot of uncertainty and unknowns.
That's how it's been.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
There you have it, folks. There's frustration every which way that you turn, and seems to be no tangible, reasonable solutions being implemented. So stay tuned as we continue to follow this report and others at fixourcities.com. For Rebel News here in Cobourg, Ontario, I'm Tamara Ugolini. We have a special website dedicated to shedding a light on this topic, the purported harm reduction, safe supply, and the effect it's having on cities, towns, and neighborhoods all across the country. To stay up to date with our reports, to support our work and sign our petition, please head over to fixourcities.com. That's fixourcities.com.